Today I'm going to be presenting the Holderness Coast, which is a local coast case study in AQA A-level geography in the hazards topic. And also, sorry if I sound extremely tired, because I am. Okay, so in the specification, it specifically says they need to know a case study of a local environment at a local scale to illustrate all of these things. So this is one that you are expected to know. So the geology at Flamborough Head. So there's more resistant chalk here and shows examples of headland erosion features such as caves, arches, stacks, and wave-cut platforms. There's softer boulder clay along most of the Holderness coast, e.g. at Mappleton. So on the curved end, there's lots of material that is eroded, gets carried away down the coast by longshore drift to create the spit called Spurn Point or Spurn Head. So the littoral drift at the Holderness coast. So the Holderness coast is retreating at an average of 1.8 meters every year. At cliff foot, the fine clay at Mappleton, or the boulder clay, is easily removed by waves and carried by littoral drift. There are 500,000 tons of sediment that is carried down southward each year in suspension. There is little material left to form beaches and protect cliffs from winter storms and high tides. And the rip currents exacerbate the rates of cliff erosion. So building groins in one location encourages beach deposition in one location, but may lead to erosion in another. For example, in the holiday resort in Mappleton, they want to protect their beaches from erosion. So some problems at the Holderness coast. 2,300 kilometers of the 70,000 kilometers of the Holderness coast has been defended against the sea, but a quarter of the coastline has still been eroded. In December of 2014, the Department of Environment, Flood and Rural Affairs, or DEFRA, reported that more than 200 homes are at risk of being lost to coastal erosion in the next 20 years. Nearly 7,000 properties worth more than $1 billion will be allowed to fall into the sea in this century, if nothing is done. So talk specifically about some areas. The Humber Estuary helped winds, tides, river processes to develop ecosystems of dunes, mudflats, and salt marshes. So in terms of flooding, there is a predicted rise in sea level that threatens 500,000 people who live less than 2 meters above current sea level. Decreasing out of supply for the Holderness, Sell, and Humber catchment are reducing formations of the new land or landforms. Sustainable solutions, for example, managed retreat near Sunk Island and selective breaching of salt marshes embankments will be needed to reverse recent increases in erosion, salinity, I think that's how you say it, and pollution. So at Spurn Head or Spurn Point, sediment brought here by littoral drift are deposited where the winds, waves, river estuary have been created, a large but fragile recurved spit. Many sand dunes and salt marshes are formed there, which develop wetland areas, which are positive for birds, the environment, and biodiversity. It is 6 kilometers long, and it is growing at approximately 10 centimeters a year. Winter storms have threatened to cut through the spit head, and have destroyed groins and revetments before. I think that's how you say it, or revetments. I don't know. So managed retreat, which just means that it was abandoned in 1995. There's no practical solution, but there began to be some concerns of loss of community. In 1894, groins and revetments were used to stabilize the spit when military force established at Spurn Point and took over the task of maintaining coastal defences. In the 1950s, though, the military left and was taken up by the Naturalist Trust, though they were unable to afford repairs, so the defences were left for disrepair. When the largest tidal surge in 60 years hit Spurn Point in 2013, the defences that were constructed by the military couldn't cope, and buildings were destroyed and access to roads swept away. So some human factors that are affecting the Holderness coast. Overall, you have the presence of people, which is basically a definition of a hazard, where it's a threat to people and properties. For example, the caravan parks there. Humans are interfering with the natural processes such as littoral drift. Unsuitable defense strategies can have adverse effects. For example, the groins at Mappleton. Global warming and short-term changes in climate are an indirect human impact. Rise in sea levels and increasing storminess. Areas such as Spurn Head and shoreline of the Humber Estuary are at great risk in such conditions from coastal flooding and erosion. So at Mappleton, there was a new scheme introduced in 1991 that cost £2.1 million, which included 2 rock groins, rock revetments, to prevent erosion from cliffs. So here are the 2 groins. Oh, wait. They're here and here. And these are the revetments. The cliffs were regraded to reduce slumping, some nourishment of the beach to encourage deposition. 1,786 of the village. Oh, wait. So in 1986, the village was 3.5 kilometers from the sea, and by 1988, the sea was on the people's doorsteps. The access to the beach was impossible, and houses at Cliff Road were falling into the sea. In 2002, the regraded cliffs were showing early signs of slumping. The second groin was being undermined, and the cliff face below the car park had begun to erode very rapid rates of erosion. The introduced scheme wasn't very successful. At Withernsea, seawalls were constructed because of the threats to holiday businesses and jobs. Large-scale redesign of walls and use of riprap or rock armour and beach nourishment. £6.3 million used is only worth the cost if the house value doesn't go down. So like as you can see in the back here, there are some houses, and basically that's saying that the £6.3 million used to protect this area will only be worth it if the value of the houses don't go down, which obviously, because they are by the beach, the prices of the houses are going to be pretty expensive. So the advantages of the seawall is that it will hold the line, calming local residents' concerns, but the cost limited the length of the seawall and reduced access to the beach. And there was a problem with the wave noise. So that was all. Here are some past exam questions. Figure 6 is on the next page. To answer the 20 marker, you need to know another case study. Or it says one or more, but I'm going to be doing one about Odisha in a minute. Here is the figure 6, which actually talks about the Humber estuary and shows the spit. Here are some more 20 markers. Here's particularly a mention on the bottom, the local scale. And that's all, thank you.